Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the international webinar on a very important subject. We are gathered here. I want to welcome Dr. Vesam, who has spearheaded and came up with this wonderful concept of this webinar. Palestine is a very important country in the world, which is undergoing a lot of trouble uh, since quite long. I mean, since it's been more than 5 decades that we have a problem in the Middle East, and the country has been, at the center stage of a lot of trouble. The recent event that we witnessed a couple of months back is again is a series of such happening with the people of this land. We want to understand what happened there and what kind of support was needed to reconstruct the nation and to heal the pain that the people of the land has been suffering from. Invite Dr. Vesam to kindly take the discussion forward and give a direction of what we are going to discuss today.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. So welcome everyone for this session to discuss and also present the findings of the assessment of the war impacts on Gaza Strip, the recent war. And I would like to thank the team members who participated in conducting this assessment. And I think now I will give the floor to Dr. Ahmed Hillis. He is the chairman of the National Institute for Environment and Development. So the floor is yours, Dr. Ahmed, for the opening remarks.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wissam. Thank you, Dr. Akram. And I would like to welcome everybody here. It's a great opportunity to join this important webinar or session to discuss the results on the findings of the recent wars perpetrated against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. And I would like especially to welcome the people or our friends, our colleagues from outside of Palestine, and also the experts and let me say the public figure who joined us in this webinar. And I hope the coming minutes will be very useful and benefit for all parties in the Gaza Strip to build upon in their in the future interventions regarding the environment. I would like to add something very important to be taken into consideration to follow up and to continue talking about what is the situation after this war. This war, the 2021 came after 14 years of blockage, complete closure of the borders of the Gaza Strip by the occupation, by the Israeli occupation, which hindered the strategic, let me say, projects can be used as developmental for the large scale projects related to the environmental sector in the Gaza Strip. A coming period of time where the governmental and non-governmental and also the international organizations working in the Gaza Strip, where they have to go forward to enhance the life of the people, the debris in the street, the demand, the damages or the destruction of the networks in the Gaza, in addition to other, let me say, findings of that war in that report.
Okay, Dr. Ahmed, thank you so much for the opening remarks. And again, welcome everyone for this important webinar to discuss the findings of the assessment, the impact assessment of the recent war on Gaza. Just to give a background on the idea to conduct the assessment, actually, it is more on kind of compiling and documenting the figures on the damages at multi-sector of the, in Gaza Strip. We are talking about building and infrastructure. We are talking about the environment and water sector, the solid waste management system. We are talking about the energy system. We are talking about the social and the economic sector as well. And at the end, we'll try to present some proposed interventions and recommendations from the assessment. So the idea of this report, the idea of this assessment is to provide a baseline study for the interventions, for the future interventions, because locally we realize that we are writing a lot in Arabic. We are publishing some numbers here and there, but there is no study, there is no report that compile and document all these figures from the different official agencies and put them in an official report to be a reference for the local and international agencies later on. Because we know that in this short period, we can't conduct a lot of tests. Like, for example, when we talk about the environmental sector, you need to conduct sampling and analysis for soil, for air and water. So we can't do that because of the limitation on, definitely that will cost. So the funding is needed, and technically there is a challenge to conduct all these analysis because of the incapability of the local institution to do that to some extent. So the idea was to compile, document with different methodologies from the data collection of the the secondary data, with also interviewing the officers at the different agencies, and that to make sure that we have one report which has all the data related to the sectors that were damaged during the war, the recent war. So I think here I'll just share some slides on the finding. So as I mentioned, I would like to thank the team that participated in the assessment, in this assessment. So you can see here the names of the team. And for our colleagues who are the international audience at this webinar, so just to give you a brief on the history of the Palestinian, you can see here how the Israeli occupation extended and the land of the Palestinian shrank. And that shows, the map shows the Palestine map since 1947 up to the present situation, where you see the expansion of the Israeli settlement and the shrinkage of the Palestinian land. And you can see that in the current scenario, where the current Palestinian land shrinked to the very minimal, to in some numbers they said like it's only 15 or 12% of the original and historical land of Palestine. So you can see here again, maybe for the benefits and for our colleagues from the international audience, you can see here the map of Gaza, where you can see a populated area, a sieged area, where these are the border lines which controlled by the Israeli, and the limitation on the movement of people. And again, this is the suffering being increased due to the ongoing conflict, ongoing war from the Israeli side. So in terms of buildings and infrastructure, we are talking about a destruction of 1,200 housing units that completely destroyed, and more than 1,000 housing units being partially destroyed, and again, another 40,000 units which is partially destroyed. So some of these partially destroyed with a very, and the 1,000 partially destroyed, it become unfit for habitation or use. So we are talking again about complete destruction of 74 government offices, and we are talking about 400,000 tons of rubbles, the rubbles that resulted from the attacks. And these are some of the photos for the high-rise building that's been destroyed in Gaza, the civilian building that's been destroyed due to the Israeli attacks. So in terms of the cause of these damages, according to the Ministry of Housing, and public work. These numbers, we are talking about total costs of 72 million. So a total cost of the demolition, whether we are talking about the partially, totally destroyed and the partially destroyed, we are talking about $564 million. Mr. Noor, do you have any comment? Maybe you want to add something on the solid waste management system in Gaza?
Sure, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting us for this important webinar. It's really interesting to see this compilation of data. And you are right. Having the data in one set, in one presentation, one report is important for all of us. From a solid waste management perspective, we benefit from this compilation of data, and I expect the same thing for our colleagues in the agricultural sector and other economic sectors as well. You said something very important that caught my attention on the recommendation side that I would love to expand on at one point, because we have, problems, as rightfully, explained in the beginning by Dr. Ahmed Hillis in the beginning, that, Gaza Strip has been suffering from multiplication of problems all over the last, years of conflict, and as Mr. Akram also started as well. So we need to put that in context. Like one particular recommendation was on a national plan regarding, emergencies and crisis management. You are right on target. And from a solid waste management perspective, when you look at the entire Gaza Strip, for instance, and I think it applies to West Bank in one way or another, but for Gaza in particular, because we have the history of the military, let's say, escalation that takes place, you will find out that there are fragmented, emergency committees, but not, unified in a way. In a more practical sense, like when you look at solid waste management in particular, you have this kind of emergency committees differ in their capacity and ability to deal with, crises, depending on their size. The classic example, when you compare them, like in the municipal sector with solid waste management, someone like, the Gaza city, which is, the biggest city in Palestine, and compare and contrast with the other 24, municipalities, excluding, of course, Khan Younis and Jabalia, which are, sizable in terms of, resources.
Thank you so much, Mr. Akram.
Thank you, Mr. Akram. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.